Welcome back. I've been reading more Campfire Cooking, Book 5. Here's a good enough summary on the second half. Chapter 4. With 3 massive sea monsters freshly butchered, there was really only one thing left to do: eat. Mukoda had managed to bring back a few smaller cuts before leaving the butcher's, and before long he had the grill going. All 3 meats sizzling side by side for a proper taste test. The results are about what you'd expect. The kraken, despite its monstrous size, still tastes like squid. The sea serpent turned out to be similar to the black and red serpents they'd eaten before. The real standout is the aspidoculon. Its white meat is extraordinary. The finest fish Mukoda had tasted in this world, just like his newly improved appraisal had promised. Once the samples were done, the kids dive in with their usual ferocity, and Mukoda makes sure to save a portion for himself, taking a moment to properly enjoy the meal too. The next morning becomes an all-out seafood expedition. Everyone heads to the market, eager to try whatever the seaside town has to offer, and they don't hold back. Stall after stall, they eat their way through clams, shrimp, fish, and even monsters. For Mukoda, there's a special nostalgia to it all. He finds himself missing Japanese-style raw fish and briefly considers sashimi, only to be immediately warned off. Apparently, many sea creatures of this world carry parasites, monster parasites, the kind that can eat you alive from the inside. That kills the sashimi fantasy pretty quickly. If he wants to survive, everything needs at least a little heat. Their shopping spree finally ends around noon, all of them thoroughly stuffed. Even Dora is too full to fly. Instead, he latches to the back of Mukoda's head as they head for the Adventurers Guild, looking less like a mighty dragon and more like an overfed decorative accessory. Naturally, everyone they pass finds it hilarious. People on the street laugh, the receptionist laughs, and even Guildmaster Marcus has to fight back a grin. Once he regains his composure, Marcus complains about paperwork before handing over Mukoda's payment for the Kraken request and the monster materials. Then, Mukoda gives him an inventory list of his dungeon loot, and Marcus nearly loses it. He had no idea that Mukoda was carrying Earth Dragon materials. That changes things. He asks Mukoda to return tomorrow, needing time to gather enough funds to buy dragon parts. Back home, they settle in for lunch, but something nags at Mukoda, a feeling he forgot something, and then it hits him. The gods. He's late with his offering. Again. The moment the telepathic link opens, he's greeted not with divine serenity, but collective outrage. All of them are upset, and they've decided on punishment. Kasharl, naturally taking the lead, demands their weekly allowance to be raised, from 3 silver to 1 gold each, a massive increase. Mukoda tries resisting, briefly, but then folds under 6 gods' worth of pressure. With their expanded budget, their requests become even more outrageous. Ninrir immediately orders an enormous cake for herself, only to get teased about recently gaining weight. Kasharo requests even more beauty products, and Mukoda ends up buying an expensive cream he remembers his sister once purchasing for an absurd price. Ruka, as usual, orders pastries too, though, unlike Ninrir, she apparently has enough self-control not to overdo it. Agni expands her taste, adding snacks to accompany her beer, and Hephaestus and Vaughn continue what has essentially become their grand quest to sample every variety of alcohol in existence. Divine beings, reduced to gourmands and drinking buddies, and Mukoda can only go along with it. The seafood celebration continues into the next morning. Breakfast, unsurprisingly, is more seafood. But this time, it's Mukoda's cooking, not market food, and that makes all the difference. The familiars shower him with compliments as they eat, happily declaring it even better than what they had at the stalls. Coming from this group, who treat good food like a sacred event, that's high praise. Mukoda takes it all in with quiet satisfaction. Later, at the Adventurers Guild warehouse, Marcus begins buying some of Mukota's dungeon drops, including a portion of the dragon materials. But in the middle of business, a messenger arrives from the Merchants Guild for Mukota. Curious, he heads over. There he finds a young employee sent by Lambert, who apparently is running low on beauty products that Mukota had been supplying him. Demand is still strong. Mukota promises he could provide more if the man returns tomorrow. Then, before he could leave, Gelt, the Merchants Guild master, pulls him aside, and unsurprisingly, he also wants to buy some of Mukota's valuables. The next day, Mukota returns to collect payment for the monster drops, but another concern had been weighing on him: the gems. After his experience in Dolan, he has no intention of trying to negotiate precious stones by himself. He knows enough to know he could get cheated, so he asks Marcus if the guild can help him sell them. Marcus admits gems aren't his specialty, but he knows someone who is. Charlotte. A large, self-assured woman with the kind of presence that makes people think twice about arguing. And better yet, she looks genuinely excited at the chance to haggle over high-value gems. Everyone's schedules line up for the following day. After a quick breakfast at the market, Mukota heads to the Merchants Guild accompanied by Marcus and Charlotte. The moment the two guild masters meet, there's a noticeable edge in the air. Professional smiles, hidden rivalry, the kind of tensions that says both of them have been doing this dance for years. In a private room, Mukota's gems are laid out and appraised. A purchase list is drawn up, and almost immediately Charlotte calls foul. The offer is too low. One merchant tries to justify the pricing by claiming the tanzanite necklace setting is old. Charlotte tears that apart in seconds. Dungeon gems, as she points out, are flawless. The stone can be reset into a new piece entirely, making the age of the necklace irrelevant. And more importantly, Mukota doesn't need the money. If he decides that he dislikes the offer, he can simply walk and sell it elsewhere. That changes the room instantly. The merchants panic, and just like that, the offer improves, significantly. Thanks to Charlotte's sharp negotiating, Mukota manages to sell most of the gems at a far better price than he could have gotten alone, and probably avoids being quietly robbed in the process. Chapter 5. At breakfast, Mukota brings up a request. He wants to stay in town for a few more days. It means pushing back their planned dungeon visit, which could have entirely sparked complaints. But he asks nicely, and surprisingly, the familiars agree without much resistance. Of course, there's still the issue of keeping them occupied. If they don't get to burn off some energy soon, trouble is inevitable, so they head to the Adventurers Guild in search of work. Before checking the request board, Mukota hands Marcus a pound cake that he baked as thanks for helping with the gem sales. Marcus is touched, mentioning his wife will be delighted to receive sweets. Then, almost without warning, he starts reminiscing about how he met her, and casually suggests that Mukota should find love too. That lands harder than expected. Mukota had been single for a long time, and somehow a pirate-like guildmaster accidentally hit him right in the soul. Trying to recover, he quietly turns to the quest board, but there's nothing suitable for his rank. Then he notices a request to hunt a saber-toothed tiger. Conveniently, he already has one. But before he can say anything, Marcus explains the request is a pain. Dangerous, poorly paid, and the monster rarely even appears around here. He'd more or less written it off as impossible. To Marcus's utter shock, Mukota immediately pulls the beast from his item box. A huge hole is blasted through its chest. Above them, Dora flies in proud little circles, clearly taking credit for the kill. They leave the tiger, and a few extra orcs for butchering, and with no proper mission available, they decide to head into the forest to hunt on their own. As they leave, Marcus calls after them to bring back something nice, the statement that will soon prove unfortunate. Out in the forest, they split up. The familiars go hunting. Mukota sets up camp and starts cooking. He notices how much easier cooking has been lately. Faster hands, smoother motions, less effort. Even he has to admit it. His higher level is helping. As much as he complains about the gods meddling in his life, he can't deny he's benefiting from it. By sunset, the familiars return. Sue, in giant form, spits out a pile of monsters. That, by now, barely registers. Then Fel casually removes the medium-sized magic bag hanging from around his neck and dumps out an adolescent red dragon. Mukoda screams. This is not bringing back something nice. This is paperwork. Meanwhile, Fel sees no problem. To him, it's simple. Excellent meat. Mukoda quickly reminds him that dragon butchering means dealing with Elrin. At that name, both of them visibly shudder. They hurry back to town before the gates close. At the guild, they walk into a tense atmosphere. Marcus is rallying the adventurers. A red dragon had been reportedly spotted nearby. Mukoda, panicking, immediately drags him aside. At the butcher's warehouse, he reveals the dragon. Complete, stunned silence. Marcus recovers first, and immediately announces the obvious. Mukoda has been promoted to S rank. If somebody can single-handedly bring down a dragon-level threat, there's no arguing it. Mukoda protests instantly. The last thing he wants is more attention. Marcus promises he'll try to keep it quiet, but even he admits that may be impossible. S-rank adventurers are rare enough to become legends. You don't hide that easily. With that bombshell dropped, the butchers finally admit what everyone already expects. They can't process the dragon. Not like this. So Mukoda decides the red dragon will have to wait. After finishing the dungeon in Eveling, they'll return to Dolan, and inevitably to Elrin. Chapter 6. By the time they get home, things return to normal almost immediately, which is to say, the familiars start complaining that they're hungry. After the chaos of the red dragon reveal, the ordinary rhythm of dinner somehow feels almost comforting. As they eat, Mukoda finally asks the obvious question. How exactly did they kill a red dragon so casually? Fel explains it with a matter-of-fact tone of somebody describing a routine hunt. Naturally, they sensed the strongest presence in the forest and went straight for it. Dora used his speed to bait the dragon out of the sky and draw it towards the group. Once it closed in, Sue blasted its wings with acid, grounding it before it could regain altitude. And while all that was happening, Fel had been charging a particularly powerful lightning spell, which became the finishing blow. Simple, efficient, and terrifying. Listening to them break it down, Mukoda can't help but realize something. Individually, his familiars are absurdly powerful, but together, there's something else entirely. A genuine force of destruction. Mukoda quickly follows that realization with a practical request. Please, try not to kill any more dragons. Not because he doubts they can, but because getting dragon meat butchered is becoming a logistical nightmare. That dampens their mood for a moment. Until he reminds them of something. Their next destination is a dungeon city, and that changes everything. Excitement returns instantly. Fresh monsters, more battles, more chances to cut loose. And for Mukoda, the thought stirs something too. As much as he grumbles about the gods and their meddling, he can't deny leveling up has made a difference. He's stronger, more capable, and for the first time in a while he finds himself genuinely wanting to contribute more to the next dungeon instead of simply hanging back. Not just cook, fight, at least a little, and with companions like these, maybe he can. Extra chapter. Their next stop is the town of Varenfield, a place known for its woodworking. For Mukoda, that means one thing: tea tools. Naturally, he wants to browse for additions to his growing collection, but things don't quite begin smoothly. When he enters the Adventurers Guild, his thin, unathletic appearance makes him an easy target for some bullying. To strangers, he doesn't exactly look like somebody traveling with legendary monsters. But before things escalate, a large beastman named Maurice steps in and shuts it down. And from there, what started as a small act of kindness snowballs into something more. Maurice ended up showing Makoto around town, and over the next few days, the two genuinely become friends. One evening, Maurice arrives at Makoto's rented house looking troubled. He needs to cancel plans for the next day. His wife is an alchemist, and she needs green geckos from the eastern forest, rare creatures used in fertility medicine, and right now, during mating season, they're at their most valuable. Then Maurice explains why it matters so much. His wife is human, and he's a beastman, and because of that, having children had been painfully difficult. After 6 years of trying, they were finally blessed with a daughter, a miracle. But now, they see their friends raising large families, siblings growing up together, and quietly they find themselves wanting more. Jealous, even. Hopeful enough to keep trying. The problem is, the geckos live deep in a dangerous forest, hidden in breeding grounds that are hard to locate and even harder to survive reaching. And so, Maurice, swallowing his pride, begs Makoto for help. And of course, Makoto agrees. The next day, they head into the forest atop a giant sue, saving hours of travel. As they move deeper among the trees, Fel and Dora peel away now and then to intercept monsters they sense nearby, casually handling threats before they become problems. Eventually, they reach the heart of the forest and begin searching, and searching, and searching. Hours pass before they find only 2 green geckos. Just 2. And even that small victory is interrupted almost immediately. A giant dodo bursts from the bush, only to be instantly dealt with by Sue. And then a massive murder grizzly appears. And then it notices Fel and runs. Unfortunately for it, Dora catches it before it gets far, peppering it with ice crystals. Maurice can do little but stare, speechless at the sheer absurd strength of Makoto's familiars. It's one thing to hear rumors, and it's another to see monsters flee in terror. The following day, Maurice returns with good news. The medicine worked. The 2 geckos were enough to make several doses, some for Maurice and his wife, some to sell, and even some for Makoto, offered as thanks. With visible reluctance and a bit of embarrassment, Makoto accepts it. A fire burns in his heart. He hopes he'll get to use it someday. Well, those are my notes on Book 5. I didn't write any extra notes, so I have nothing to add on to the end. I'll probably buy Book 6 here in a little bit so I can start reading it and writing notes. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. Peace.